The movie begins with an old man named Joe. He is heading to a bank because the bank sent him a yellow warning to seize the house he lives in with his daughter Rachel and granddaughter Brooklyn. We see him talking to the bank manager as he inquires about the warning he received. The bank manager tells him that this warning was sent to him because he was late in paying the interest on the loan he took from the bank. He tells him that because of the delay in payment, the interest will double, and that if he does not pay, they will send him a red warning, which is the last. And the red alert is an irreversible warning, as the bank will seize his house within a month only. He gets angry at what the manager said, and he tells him that they have defrauded him because they told him that the interest on the loan will not be doubled. He also tells him that his daughter and granddaughter live with him in the house, and if the bank seizes the house, they will be homeless on the streets. But even so, the bank manager wasn't interested in Joe's words. Suddenly, during their conversation, 3 masked people enter the bank in order to rob the bank, and they are shooting, which made people afraid. 2 of them entered in order to take the money from the employees, while the 3rd person was tasked with securing protection for them. The bank manager and Joe lie on the floor, but the mob boss enters the office. When he saw Joe lying on the ground, and because he was old, he was allowed to get up. Joe was scared, so he gave him his wallet and everything he had. But the gang boss refuses to take anything from him, and when he saw the yellow alert, he told Joe to know that he was a victim of a bank fraud. As they talk, Joe notices a tattoo on the neck of the gang boss. The gang boss tells Joe that the community should take care of the elderly. After that, the gang comes out of the bank, and they have $1.5 million. As for Joe, during his interrogation by the police, he told them about the tattoo he saw on the neck of the gang leader. With the help of a police painter, they were able to identify the shape of the tattoo. Joe speaks with a federal agent named Arlen. Joe advises him to find the owner of the tattoo so they will be able to identify the gang. But Arlen didn't care what Joe said, so he let him go. Then his daughter and granddaughter come to take him from the police station. He tells them about what happened in the bank. After they returned home, they saw that the tattoo that Joe had told them about had spread in the news so that people could identify the owner of the tattoo. The next day he goes to meet his friends Albert and Willie to sit with them, telling them about the robbery, and he was very excited and happy. He tells them that so far the police have not been able to find the gang. While talking to them, Willie tells them that he has been retired from the factory where they work. Joe and Albert tell him that they too have been retired, but the factory did not give them any money or severance pay, even though they had been working there for 30 years. Because of this, they decided to go to the factory to talk to the manager to give them their money. When they went to the factory, they found many employees making protests because they also did not take their rights after retirement. The factory manager tells them that they will not give them any money no matter what they do. So the 3 are forced to leave the factory because they know that the factory manager is adamant not to give them any money. After that, they go to the restaurant, but they did not have money to pay, and when the waitress saw them, she decided to pay them the price of the meal. Then they go to Willie's house and hang out together. After Joe returns home, he finds the red notice from the bank. The next day Willie goes to the hospital to do the dialysis he does every week. But the doctor tells him that dialysis is of no use anymore and that he must do a kidney transplant. He advised him that one of his relatives donate to him because no one would donate to a person of his age, and also he must pay large amounts of money to the donor. And the doctor also told him that he did not have much time and that there should be someone to donate to him because his condition was critical. After that, he goes to talk to his granddaughter via video call because his daughter and granddaughter are in another country, and that his daughter does not come to visit him constantly, and he tells his granddaughter to ask her mother to visit him as soon as he needs them. She promises him that she will tell her mother about it. At this time Albert was teaching a child how to play music because he was a former musician. As for Joe, he was waiting for his granddaughter, Albert, to take her home after school, and she asked him to bring her a dog, as he promised. Then they meet to celebrate Willie's birthday. They are having dinner when Joe tells them he wants to rob a bank. They were surprised by what he said and they thought he was joking. Albert tells them he wants to buy a Ferrari. Willie tells him that he wants to play football, but all these dreams are impossible. But Joe takes them seriously, so he takes out the red notice he got from the bank. He told them that he was going to be kicked out of the house and that he had to act as soon as possible. He believed that the banks ruined his life and the lives of many people through exaggerated interest on loans. Because of these reasons, he decided to rob the bank. There were 2 possibilities for this. Either they will rob the bank and they will get the money, or they will be arrested and therefore they will be in a place with a bed and food and not homeless people. Before they can give their opinion, Willie's elderly friends come carrying a birthday cake and sing for him, after which he makes his wish. When they return home, Willie calls Joe and tells him that none of his previous wishes have been fulfilled and he decides to share his wish this year. He told him that he wanted to live a better life than his previous life, and he asked him if he was serious about the bank robbery. Joe tells him he's being serious and he tells him they have nothing to lose. Willie is excited about the idea, but they agreed that they would only steal the money that they were supposed to take from the factory, because this is their right, and they are not thieves in the first place. After that, they called Albert, and he was not convinced of the idea because he did not want his life to end in prison. He tries to advise them and tell them that they are not criminals, but to no avail. Finally, he started to think about it. The next day they met. Joe and Willie come down to rob a supermarket to eat because they have no money. But the security cameras catch them and the security official chases them and easily she arrests them, and Albert, who was very angry with them, was caught because he did nothing and was caught despite that. When the owner of the supermarket saw them and noticed that they were old, he decided to forgive them and not inform the police. He also gave them free vouchers to take what they needed. Albert is very angry and he was mocking them because they failed to rob a supermarket. So how will they end up wanting to rob a bank? He did not allow them to ride with him in the car and decided to leave them on the street. Despite Albert's harsh words, Joe decided to have a third professional with them, because if they tried to rob the bank in this way, they would not be able to steal a single dollar. Joe tells him he knows a criminal who could help them with the robbery. Then he takes Willie to a guy named Murphy, and they found drugs in his house. They knew he was doing illegal things. Joe asks Murphy to find a gangster for them to help them with something. He tells them he will find someone for them and call them. Albert goes to the supermarket and meets Annie, and they get close to each other. Then the three meet at the restaurant and read in the newspapers that the factory they were working in had used their money to pay the factory bills. Albert gets angry because of this, and he finally decides to agree to participate in the robbery with them. They agreed to talk to the fourth person, and indeed they started planning the robbery. Then they meet a person named Jesus who will help them plan this operation. They offered him 25% of the money they would steal if he helped them, and he agreed. At night they went to have dinner, and after that they decided to count the money they deserved from the factory. The total amount was $1.25 million. They agreed that if they stole an amount greater than this amount, they would donate the surplus amount to a charity. The next day, they go with Jesus to put together a robbery plan, and they determine how long it will take them to prepare the plan to rob the bank, and the period is 20 days before the bank seizes Joe's house. They entered the bank and knew the location of the surveillance cameras, the number of employees and guards present, and they also knew the entrances and exits of the bank. They also chose the car in which they would escape. Jesus teaches them how to steal cars in case of an emergency. As the days go by, they exercise to improve their physical fitness. They prepared an alibi for themselves, and they decided to volunteer and participate in a project for the elderly that will happen on the day of the robbery. If the police suspect them, they will have a strong alibi. Jesus warns them that every employee has a certain bundle of money containing tracking devices that they give to any criminal so that the police can catch him. He tells them that once they enter the bank they will only have 2 minutes to carry out the robbery before the police arrive. Then they train to shoot, although they will take weapons with them just to scare people, and they will not use weapons only in the worst case. Days pass until the day the theft is carried out. On this day, Joe goes to say goodbye to his granddaughter, and he tells her to take care of herself in case anything happens to him. Murphy was with him and introduced him to her because if something happened to him, Murphy would take care of her. After that, the three go to the volunteer project for the elderly, which is their alibi. They mingle with people to prove they are there. When they made sure that everyone saw them, they left the place without anyone noticing them. After that they are heading towards the bank. Joe tells them that he brought the guns without the ammo because they didn't want to accidentally hurt anyone. He also tells them that if they fail, he was amused by planning the operation with them. Then they enter the bank wearing masks and shoot to scare people. Joe and Willie go to collect the money while Albert provides security for them. During their robbery, there was a child. She tells Willie to take her doll, but they must not harm her. He tells her that he will not steal anything from her, and suddenly he has a fit of fatigue while talking to her and falls next to the child. She tries to help him breathe, so she takes off his mask. Because of that, she saw the thief's face and also saw the wristwatch, which had his granddaughter's picture on it. Albert tells them that the 2 minutes are up and that the police will arrive soon. Joe goes to help Willie escape, but suddenly the bank manager shoots them. But he was tense and afraid. Albert keeps hitting him with fake shots and then they run away. They had $2 million from the robbery. After the operation is over, they disperse and then meet at the restaurant. Albert was playing music for them and he was very happy. After they leave the restaurant, Willie falls to the floor telling them that he is very tired. Next, Joe and Albert go to visit him in the hospital, where the doctor tells them that their friend has kidney failure and that his condition is very serious, and he tells them that he must not leave the hospital until after he performs a new kidney transplant, or that his condition will worsen until he dies. Meanwhile, the police were investigating the bank robbery. They saw on the surveillance cameras part of Willie's face, but they could not identify his identity, but they knew that he was an old man and dark-skinned, and they published his picture everywhere. After that, we see the manager of the supermarket telling the police about the robbery that the three carried out, and he tells them that they look like the people who robbed the bank. Then the police go to every one of them and arrest him. They are being investigated, but they were adhering to the alibi of absence. In addition, the police could not find any money in the house of any of them because Joe had left the money with Jesus. Although there was no evidence, Agent Arlen did not believe them. He put them in front of all the suspects in the robbery. Willie was afraid that the little girl would easily recognize him. The child approaches the suspects to tell them about the person she saw. After that, she approaches Willie, and indeed she was able to identify him and the watch that had a picture of his granddaughter, but she told the police that none of them was the thief. Arlen asks to check again, but she tells him she's sure. Then Joe goes to see Jesus to get the money from him. He asked him to take his share of the money, but he tells him that he will not take a single dollar. When Joe asks him why, he tells him that it is the community's duty to take care of elderly people. Here, Joe discovers that Jesus is the boss of the gang that robbed the bank at the beginning of the movie. He was helping them because he knew the bank wanted to take over Joe's house. He asks him about the tattoo he had on his neck, and he tells him it was a temporary tattoo. And that was a smart move by him to delude the police with his true identity. During their conversation, Agent Arlen suddenly entered them while talking to them, but he did not suspect anything, so he left them and left. When they left, Joe put a large sum of money to the waitress who was helping them as a token of thanks. They also sent money to their elderly friends. Albert also donates his kidney to Willie. Joe gives a touching speech to his best friends Albert and Willie on Albert and Annie's wedding day. Joe says if you have friends from your younger days and they are still with you, then you must be a lucky person. He says he is a lucky person because he has such friends. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications to watch more videos like this.